What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to Not Your Average Meta, an MTG Commander channel dedicated to bringing you decks and commanders you wouldn't normally find in your average meta. This week's video is brought to you by our new channel sponsor, International MTG. If you're looking for competitive pricing on your favorite MTG cards, old and new, be sure to check out the International MTG store and TCG Player, link in the description of this video. This week on Not Your Average Meta, we have another game we recorded down in Taylorville, Illinois with one of our original channel members, Foil. First up this week, we have Foil returning to the channel, bringing back his Yurlok of Scorch Thrash deck for the third time. This deck looks to fill up all his opponent's mana pools with an abundance of mana in order to kill them with mana burn. Next, we have Justin playing his favorite Dimir Mill deck, being led by Oona, Queen of the Fae. This deck looks to pull off the impossible and mill all his opponents out in order to win. Then we have Gavin returning to the table playing his favorite Theros god, Purphoros, God of the Forge. This deck looks to get out Purphoros as quick as possible, then drop in enough tokens to ping his opponents to death. Lastly, we have Fogrel playing his new partner pairing of Ich-Tekik and Rebbec. This is a Selesnya Splicer tribal deck that looks to create a bunch of golem tokens in order to run over his opponents. Now that we have our fighters, let's step into the Thunderdome and see which deck will come out on top. Turn 1, Gavin plays a Nykthos return, then taps it for a turn 1 Soul Ring, which he then uses to cast a Pyre of Heroes. Fog draws and plays a Forest return and passes. Foil draws and plays a tapped Jungle Hollow, gaining a life. Justin draws and plays a tapped Drowned Catacombs return. Gavin draws for turn and passes. Fog draws and plays a Plains return. He then taps 2 for an Ingenious Smith, looking at his top 4 cards of his library and revealing a Liquid Metal Torque. Foil draws and plays a Blood Crypt return, taking 2 life to have it come in untapped. He then taps 2 for Night's Whisper, losing 2 more life and drawing 2 cards. Justin draws for turn, then plays an Island for turn and passes. Gavin draws for turn, then taps a Soul Ring for an Arcane Signet before tapping the Signet for a Ragavan. Fog draws for turn, then plays another Plains before tapping 2 to cast a Talisman of Unity, putting a counter on his Smith. He then taps 2 more to cast a Gold Mirror before going to combat, swinging 2 at Gavin. Foil draws and plays a Snow-Covered Forest before tapping out to cast a Citadel of Pain. Justin draws and plays a Tainted Isle for turn, then taps out to cast Teferi's Tutelage. He then draws a card and discards a card, hitting Gavin with the Mill trigger. Gavin draws for turn and plays a Castle Embereth for turn, then taps 4 to cast his commander, Purphoros, then swings Ragavan at Justin, exiling his top card and getting a treasure. Fog draws for turn, then taps 5 for Forsaken Monument. He then casts a Moon Silver Key, gaining 2 life. He then swings his Smith at Justin for 3 damage and passes. Foil draws and plays a Fabled Passage for turn, then cracks to go get a Snow-Covered Mountain. He then taps out and casts his commander, Yurlok. Justin draws for turn and hits Foil with the Tutelage trigger. He then taps 1 for Hedron Crab before playing another island for turn, having Fog mill 3 cards. Justin then taps out to cast Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Having each opponent exile cards off the top of their library until they exile enough cards to total a mana value of 20 or more. Gavin draws for turn and plays a Mountain. He then swings Ragavan and Fog for 2 damage, exiling his top card and getting another treasure. Gavin then taps 3 for Price of Glory, and then taps 4 more for an Outpost Siege, choosing Dragons. Fog draws for turn, then casts his Liquid Metal Torque, putting a counter on his Smith and gaining 2 life. He then pays 1 to sack the Moon Silver Key to go get the Great Hinge from his library. Fog then plays the Great Hinge, then uses it in a Plains to cast Restoration Specialist, gaining 2 life, putting a counter on the Specialist, and drawing a card. He then swings his Smith at Justin for 4 damage, then takes 1 damage and passes. Foil draws for turn, then taps Yurlok to create Jund mana for everybody, and uses his to cast Dictative Kirametra. He then casts Finhorn Elves and goes to move phases. Justin pays 4 life and casts Dismember, targeting Yurlok, but in response to that, Foil casts Deflecting Swat to redirect the spell to Justin's Hedron Crab. Everybody then takes their mana burn damage. Justin draws for turn and plays a Buried Ruin, hitting Fog with the Tutelage trigger. He then pays 5 to cast Patient Rebuilding and ends his turn losing 2 life. Gavin draws for turn, then plays another Mountain before casting Dictate of the Twin Gods. He then swings Ragavan and Justin for 4 damage, exiling his top card and getting a treasure. Gavin then casts Empty the Warrens with a Storm count of 2, giving him 4 Goblins, which deals 16 damage to each of his opponents. He then plays a Mistimed Kiki Jiki, dealing 4 more damage to his opponents. Fog draws for turn and plays a Tap Power Depot. He then casts a Solemn Simulacrum and goes to find a Plains, gives Solemn a +1/+1 counter, and draws a card. Fog then taps a Hinge and enough mana to cast his first commander, Ich-Tekik, giving him a 3/3 Golem token, He also gains 2 life, puts a counter on Ich-Tekik, and draws a card. Fogg then casts Arcane Signet, gaining 2 life, and then casts his other commander, Rebbec, who enters and gets a +1/+1 counter and draws him another card. Foil draws for turn then plays a Ley Line of Abundance before asking the table if they have a way to stop him from comboing off. After everyone says no, he then taps his elves to activate Yurlok before untapping him and tapping him again to create more mana. He then casts Umbral Mantle and equips it to his commander before swiping his hands back and forth a couple times, demonstrating how we'll fill our mana pools with infinite mana before it moves phases, killing all of us with mana burn. The big winner of today's game was Foil piloting Yurlok. As much as I hate losing to infinite combos, I'm glad Foil finally got to get a win on the channel with his Yurlok deck. He took advantage of the situation to win, and who can blame him for that? The MVP of today's game is Umbral Mantle. We've played against Foil's Yurlok deck many times, and he's been trying to pull his combo off for a while, but always seems to get stopped before he really pops off. Yurlok is pretty good at creating mana burn himself, but with the Mantle out, he just ends games. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can see more games and decks you wouldn't normally see in your average meta.